Welcome back. Thank you for being part of Empower. We deal with issues of people and workplace. Pastor, before we proceeded for a break, we were thinking about living within our means as employees, within what we are earning at the moment. Kindly take us through that.
Yeah, thank you. When you talk about living within our means,
Yes.
I start thinking about peer pressure. We've left college together, and so is driving, so has gone into a new house, onto a 3-bedroom house. I'm still living in a single house, and that pressure makes us start looking out on how to match the life, and that is a big thing in our life today. But as much as possible, not as much as possible. This must be a rule. That if you ever want to call yourself a successful person financially, you must live within your means from the word go. And the way to do this is whether you are earning just that one salary or you have a few other hustles out there, establish exactly what your disposable income is. After all the taxes, after all the statutory payments, and as we said, after you have saved, know that this is how much I have. Number 2, you also establish strictly what your monthly expenses are. And when you establish what they are, allocate them to fit to your disposable income. And if possible, to have something hanging somewhere for an emergency. In the very medium term, if you find that it's like you cannot really live within this income, then that becomes good enough pressure to have you start looking for alternative sources of income that you can genuinely do, not stealing from the employer, not stealing some hours from work to go and do, not borrowing. For you to live within your means, you must never borrow. Borrowing for fare, for food, borrowing for rent, borrowing for consumption is a no. If you ever want to be stable in your finances. That's what I would say.
That's a very strong point. Because I think in most cases, you find people borrowing for food. And they're working. So I'm looking at this as maybe one of the mistakes that people make when they're handling finances. To reach a point, I have income, yes, I'm paid. And also you find people, for example, at workplace, they even take advances, and organizations give that. But you realize, I take this advance this month, it's deducted. So by end of the month, my money is not enough. So if I'm not careful, I find myself living a cyclic life. Borrowing for fare, borrowing for food, borrowing for rent. And I'm doing something. And I think also why people also borrow is because maybe I'm living outside my means. Because I want to live in a house, I pay 7,000 or 10, yet my salary is 20,000. Then I leave 50% going to rent. I think I'll struggle.
Surely.
I'll struggle.
You will.
And I think it's good for us to take care of that.
Yes, something else probably as you continue is impulse buying. You did not plan to buy a blouse, and here is a person walking in the offices. You did not plan to eat in the office, but somebody starts supplying food there, and you think, I could buy it, it is cheap. Yet you could have come to work with your packed lunch. And that is a balance of what you cooked last night, so it has completely no expense. The same gas used, the same amount of unga, everything. So impulse buying and spending on what you can spend or you can fail to spend because you can use it elsewhere.
And you see this issue of impulse buying. Sometimes you just see something that, hey, this thing, if I miss it now. So you start when you see the thing, you see the money you have. You see what is in M-Pesa. You already, your mind is going very fast that I can get this thing. So I'm looking at it as a discipline. I can say no to this.
Yeah, and if you see it consistently and commit yourself,
Yes.
never to buy anything that you had not planned for, unless at the point that you're buying it, you sit back with yourself and agree with yourself, you know what, this month I had allocated all my money and I had 500 shillings that remained for emergency. This thing can be that emergency, such that you never buy until you've sat back with yourself.
Maybe, Pastor, you can also tell us, being a financial person, what are common mistakes that employees make in matters of finance, other than impulse buying?
Yeah, we have a number of them. That mistake one is what you've just discussed.
Yes.
Living above your means.
Yes.
That is a big mistake that is made.
Yes, yes.
Number two is buying what you've not budgeted. You did not budget to buy it
Yes.
this month, and by the close of the month, your bed covers are changed. You did not plan it. That definitely is going to pinch the wrong place. Unwise borrowing.
Yeah.
Borrowing for food, as I said.
Yeah.
Borrowing to lend a friend.
So I borrow on your behalf.
Borrowing for
Interesting.
impulse buying. Or borrowing without thinking you're borrowing, like eating from that Mama Pima outside there to pay at the end of the month.
And I didn't have to eat. I could have done without
You
it.
could have eaten by carrying your packed lunch. Yeah, yeah, you could have done that. The other one is allowing your expenses to grow proportionally to your income. It's the end of the year, 10% increment. You look at that 10%, you are getting 100,000, you have 10,000 on top. And you think you could start spending an extra 10,000.
Ama nabadilisha nyumba.
What you don't realize is at the very word go, before even you think about saving,
Yes.
the government has already gone with 3,000 of that 10,000 because you're already at that top echelon of the taxation. And so you are only added 7,000. The other one has gone to the government.
Already gone, yeah.
That is not good, allowing yourself to grow the expenses. Actually, expenses should wait and only grow when it is necessary to grow. You don't always have to change a house because you've gotten an increment. And the other one that I was taught by secondary school principal, it's called Mr. Robert Anthony Woods. He quoted from Shakespeare, said, neither a lender nor a borrower be, because both loses both the money and the friend. So in that case is lending what you cannot afford to lose.
To lose, yes.
Somebody comes, please help me with 5,000. I'll return next week when we get our advances. And you cannot actually live without that 5,000.
True.
In most cases, that person will not be able to pay that money or not be able to pay the whole of it. And if you are an organized person, you have been disrupted for the rest of the year. So lending what you can't afford to live with.
Wow. I love those points. And I'm thinking about those mistakes. And sometimes we do them not knowing we are doing them.
Sure.
You only come later and ask yourself, I had 2,000. It seems I have 200. Was I robbed? Then once you sit down and do calculations, you realize, actually, I spent the money. But because you're not planned to do so, that is why I'm feeling like, I don't think I spent that money. You don't have to struggle and scratch your head. Maybe, Pastor, most people, and especially employees, don't budget.
Yeah.
They just spend the money as it comes. So why do you think we don't do that?
I think, one, we don't do it because of our cultural backgrounds, where there was something for everybody when it is needed.
Yeah.
If your brother there has it, it's as good as yours. If your dad, your mother has it, I think that background contributes. The other thing is personal financial training is not something that is taught in our educational institutions along to grow people in that direction. It ought to be taught. Yeah, and budgeting is a simple skill, but it needs to be taught. It needs to be taught. It's not something, very few people catch it just naturally.
True.
Yeah, there are few that do.
Yeah.
There are few that grow with that acumen to know how to take care of their money and work within their means.
Yes.
But it is a skill to many that need to be trained. Those that you find with it, probably they catch it because they observed. By observing what they saw their parents or a friend that they look up to as a mentor, as an example, they found them doing it. But those of us that probably grow and never get to see anybody to follow from, it needs to be trained. It needs to be impacted on people.
Yeah, because some of us are not doing it, not because we have purposed not to, but we don't know how to do. But I think there's hope, yeah?
Yeah, there's hope.
You can start.
Yeah, you can begin it, but begin it as a deliberate move.
Yes.
You must decide it is a must for me to budget, and you deliberately wake up
Yes.
and buy a book. There are notebooks that are specifically meant for budgeting. You can get one, and every month it has a place for your incomes, it has a place for your expenses, and you can do it every month. That can help you to follow through. And you need to know what the elements are, so that as you deal with the budgeting, you get to know the three elements of budgeting, because it's not rocket science.
Yes.
It's only the income, element number one. Element number two is the expenditure. And element number four is the saving. When you have done that, the other elements of personal financial planning comes later. When you're investing and protecting, that comes later. But budgeting takes care of just those three.
Yes.
Income, expenditure, and saving.
Wow, that is beautiful. Maybe as we wrap up the program, I'm eager to hear what you'd advise that employee who's been listening to you, and what are your last words? What would you tell them so that they can walk a life that they'll live to enjoy even many days to come? Yes.
Yeah, well, I would speak like the writer of Ecclesiastes, the last chapter 12.
Yes.
You read second to last verse, says, and this is the conclusion of the whole matter. So this is going to be the conclusion of the whole matter. This is what I would want to say, that whether or not your personal financial dreams will be actualized, and so with a satisfaction that at the close of the day, you look back and smile and say, I think I've conquered, I'm happy with my financial achievements, and my financial stability will depend on how well you employ the elements that we mentioned, the 5 of them, elements of personal financial planning. How well you handled your income, your spending, your saving, your investment when money starts working for you, and protecting them, such that even if winds blew someday and you are left naked, you still had somebody who could come and stand in and tell you, you remember, you protected it. You can have it back. So that is the main thing. And finally, probably say that there is one very important thing in financial management if you ever want to grow and be stable, and that is to make sure that you are training, increasing your skills continuously to make sure that you grow in your career so that you get to a point where you no longer are under strain to live within your means. You now have sufficient to keep on investing because you have grown in your career and been able even to diversify in other areas. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Pastor.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate your time and being part of this program. I believe you have learned a lot today and you'll handle your money differently. It doesn't matter how much you're earning. Start where you are. If you've just started working, if you're doing some businesses, please start saving. Don't spend everything, and always have a budget and ensure you don't have to do what you're not planned to do. This has been Empower. Thank you for being part of this program. I look forward to see you next week. My name is Beatrice Chuchu. God bless you.